Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining this great conversation that Pete Bowen and I are going to have on 2026 Google Ads lead generation marketing strategies. Pete and I have been in the industry for a combined 30 years, and
Wow.
this year in 2025, we haven't seen it shake up as much as this year really in 2025. And that's why we wanted to meet and talk about some of the things that have not been working and have been working in 2025 so that you can sharpen your knives and get ready for 2026. I think the challenge with being an industry veteran, I don't know if you would agree with me, Pete, is we're so used to having all this control. And to be honest, I still romanticize having this level of control with Google Ads. I've tried so many of these like hacks and little short-term solutions to like
Yeah.
save on my CPCs and like, try to have control over Google, but realizing that this year it's really not worth the effort.
No.
So it's not worth fighting against Google's AI. And I feel like our time is really better spent embracing it and training it to work better for us. So that's what I've really adapted to this year, especially over the last several months. It's not that I was fighting against the AI, but you know, trying to find different solutions to, I guess, have shortcuts and get better cost per leads and better quality leads, but at the same time we need to focus on what we can control. Would you agree? What are your thoughts on that topic and take?
Yeah, certainly. I agree with you that we've never had less control. I suspect that this is going to be, if we look back at this time in 2 or 3 years' time, we'll say, wow, today we have even less control than we had back late 2025. And it's been my experience that most of Google Ads features, new features, follow the same kind of pattern. At first, when they first introduce them, they're rubbish. And we do our best to work around them. And then after a year or two, they kind of mature, and the early adopters have suffered through horrible performance, and Google's learned from the early adopters, and their system has become better, and it's become good enough for mainstream. And then we give up a little bit of control over there. It's happened with bidding strategies. It's happened with keyword match types. It's happened or happening with ad copy. Pretty much everything that we used to have our hands on, we no longer do.
Yeah, absolutely. And one phrase that I would use to describe 2025 as it relates to Google Ads is lack of control. And what used to work doesn't work anymore, as you've seen, as I've seen. And it's really been a super disruptive year. Over the past decade that I've been in PPC, I haven't seen things shake up as much as the year of 2025. We can say US economy could be, having some type of impact, but then also Google panicking to jump on this AI automation bandwagon and putting together something that was really sloppy just so that they could have something with just, AI and
Yeah,
automation. So all these advertisers will jump on the bandwagon because AI has just been this buzzword for the past couple of years. And, with ChatGPT, eventually in 2026 going to be rolling out their advertising platform. We don't know exactly when, but Google wants to jump in and capitalize on where they can because they've been the leading search engine. And now we're starting to see that a lot of people are going to these generative, large language models and using it to get answers and bypassing the whole Google search results page.
well, I'm not sure if I agree with you on that one. Certainly, I think in the circles that you and I move in, we work with, and we're connected to people who are early adopters of technology. My mom and dad have never seen ChatGPT, and I suspect that there's a large bunch of people who are going to still take 5, 10, maybe even more years before they've migrated from the habits that they currently that they've currently embedded into using AI for what we think is kind of everyday use. So while there's a lot of hype about it and a lot of waving hands and we're all going to die, we're all going to die kind of conversation in the PPC world, I'm not convinced that that's happening this year or next year. Of course, I could be completely wrong. So come back and tell me.
Well, I'm not saying that the majority of the searches are shifting to ChatGPT, but what I'm starting to see is there are some. And looking in clients' Google Analytics, I'm seeing ChatGPT be
Yeah.
a referrer of traffic, and it's definitely something that we need to keep a pulse on, keep our eyes on, because I do expect as more people become aware, especially the younger generation, they're probably not going to be using Google as much when there's all these other tools where they don't even need to click on a landing page. They just get an answer in ChatGPT or whatever large language model, and then boom, they don't even need to go to I think that right now a lot of these large language models are trying to bypass the click. They just want you to stay there, and the more users that they have, the more ability that they can sell these ad slots eventually when they do have these ad slots.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see. In terms of adoption, I still don't think that the majority of people are using these tools, but more and more people are hearing about it, and I think eventually it's going to be something that that a good share of people are going to be using. Don't know when, but probably in the next few years.
Well, we'll have this as a record of our thoughts at the end of 2025, and we can come back and see whether we were optimistic, pessimistic, or if we got it completely right. I think the biggest disruptor the biggest disruptor by AI has been what appears from the outside. Obviously, I have no internal knowledge about or no knowledge about Google's internal workings, but it appears from the outside that Google almost panicked, and they've made so many choices that have been really look like throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks, as they've tried to respond to what they think is possibly a business threatening competitor in ChatGPT or other AI companies. And that hasn't necessarily been well thought out or even well executed. And I suspect that if they had had more time, they would have done a better job on that, and we would have suffered a lot less trying to respond to all of this craziness with this half-baked implementation.
And I'm assuming that you're referring to AI Max for search that
Yeah,
was rolled
AI
out.
Max for search, as well as shaking up the search results page, as they've
Yeah.
tried to include ads in the AI overviews, and even as they've put those AI overviews in the organic pages, that hasn't been it hasn't been an example of the best that I think a company like Google should be expected to do. It really looks like it's something that's been rushed out.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Honestly, I feel like Google Ads feels like gambling these days, in that your direct inputs doesn't actually lead to an expected output. You're just hoping and
Yeah.
wishing. Would you agree with me on that one?
Yeah, it's far. It used to be far more of a determinative system where if you put something in the top, you got the same kind of results out. It's a lot less like that now, and I think that that's made it really difficult for people who are coming into the industry, because
Yeah.
they read and they look, they find this information that has said, if you do this, these are the results that you're going to get. And they follow those tutorials, or they follow the advice in Google's documentation, and they get completely different results. Uh, Even for people who are doing this, what they did yesterday, excuse me, what they did yesterday or last week no longer produces the same results. It seems like the inputs and the outputs are completely disconnected, and inside there's this magic black box that
Yeah.
determines what the results are going to be.
Results are much harder to come by in 2025 versus 1, 2 years ago. I've seen campaigns stall. I've seen campaigns not serve, targeting, just serving the wrong audiences. It's just kind of become just a mess in terms of, the way that the results, are harder to come by. I feel like in 2025, the PPC manager's job has really evolved. So right now we're at an era where just universal best practices are dead. And I think, you could try to follow tutorials, but just because it might work for someone this way doesn't mean that it's going to work for you in that way, because you might be targeting different regions. You have different ad copy, different landing pages. So it's not going to be as simple as just copying and pasting to get the
Yeah.
same results.
Yeah, I've consulted with a number of agencies, including some that run essentially cookie cutter campaigns for franchises where they've got 15, 20 clients that all have the same business model. And previously they were able to copy what worked in one area and paste it into another. And within a couple of days, they would be getting similar results. Now that's really giving them a hard time as they're trying to figure out why what worked
Yeah.
here is no longer working here.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that comes to mind is these external factors that you don't have control over, like competition, right? Like in one area, it might be such a competitive, let's just say like personal injury in Las Vegas. That's the most
Okay, that would be
competitive
terrifying.
space. Yeah, exactly. That's terrifying versus like small town Iowa, where there's really not much, not many people, like in terms of like population, and not much, competition of personal injury law firms. So, yeah, it's just what worked before. It's not, might not, most likely won't work, now. Let's talk about some of the state of PPC. We talked about lack of control. We talked about Google's rushed and sloppy job in introducing AI, their AI offering, AI Max. What have you found with AI Max so far, in terms of, have you tested it?
I don't have first-hand experience. I haven't tested it yet. My usual approach has been to allow other people to spend their clients' money on things for the first little while I focus on what's working and what's currently delivering the goods. And then a year or two later, I don't mind being
Jump
a
on the
slow
bandwagon.
adopter. We'll
Yeah, and I
figure out.
think I think most small advertisers should use that mentality. Don't be the guinea pig. I work with clients that have larger budgets that want to be the first to market on these types of things. And my personal opinion of AI Max so far is it's like a drunk broad match. As you could
Drunk
imagine,
broad match. Okay.
yeah, it's like a drunk broad match. The CPCs are higher. A lot of the search terms, as we have already seen before, are missing. So haven't really seen any strong results come from testing AI Max. But it's something that as there's more feedback that's given to Google, as long as you have strong conversion signals, and eventually Google will evolve the platform, hopefully, so
Yeah,
that AI Max.
I would expect that would happen. It's happened with everything else they've done so far. Even Performance Max, which was horrendous to start out with, is actually useful under the right circumstances. And I expect we'll see the same thing with AI Max, and we'll forget that we did it any other way in a few years'
Yeah,
time.
exactly, exactly. In fact, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and my prediction is that match types are eventually going to be gone, and AI Max is going to be the only option.
Okay.
I don't know when that's going to happen, but as we're talking about the state of PPC in 2025. I wanted to bring in the topic of blurrier match types. Uh, Google doesn't even respect its own definitions of their different match types.
No.
There's not much differentiation between broad and phrase match these days. In fact, phrase match, even though it's there, it doesn't have the same benefits as broad. So phrase match is something that it I wouldn't recommend to clients to use, because you don't get the same benefits as broad, which we will talk about a little bit more. But and exact will always have its place, but it's still not exact like it was before.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
think that's part of mourning the loss of control is that, exact wasn't, exact is gone. It's no longer
yeah,
there. And phrase match is
yeah,
no longer there. And broad match modified is no longer there. These are all
yeah,
things that we remember fondly, but they've gone. And we need to adapt to the new reality.
yeah,
But having said that, uh, I'm finding, much to my surprise over the last few years, that broad match keywords are working, even under circumstances that I would have not expected them to work. For fairly low search volumes, for clients in smaller areas or uh, in niche businesses or even low budget clients, the broad match keywords are able to serve and to the right audience. Not all of
yeah.
them, but enough of them to make ads profitable.
It's definitely gotten a lot better. I'll say that. Especially, compared to, what it was like before. I mean, like I remember when I first started in PPC, I wouldn't even touch, broad match with a 10-foot pole. It was just
Yeah.
one of those things like a forbidden thing. And now it's like, hey, this is where it's going. It's no longer matching to the specific words. We just have to go after specific themes. And I think that that's something that we want to talk about in terms of the evolution of PPC in 2025. But one thing that I wanted to touch on lastly, as it relates to the state of PPC in
Uh-huh.
2025, is the end of call only ads. Google they made an announcement. They kind of swept it under the rug earlier
Yes.
this year. And then they made another announcement like a month ago saying by the Q1 of 2026, call only ads are going to be completely deprecated. And a lot of advertisers that rely on phone calls are like freaking out about this. And to be very frank, I don't believe that it's that much of a loss because I didn't really see call only ads perform that well to begin with.
Okay. Well, I think I think what we're seeing is part of Google's transition to serving a lot more local service ads.
Yes,
Local service ads are really profitable for Google. Again, this is me guessing, but they charge per
per
lead,
lead.
and they sell that same lead to, for instance, if you're using a messaging, if you're receiving leads by message, Google will sell that same lead to, I think it's at the moment it's up to 4 other businesses. So for something like an immigration lawyer, they could get $600 off a single impression if they sold $450 local service ads leads, as opposed to probably 4 clicks at $10 each
Hmm.
for the same kinds of searches. And so I think that what we're seeing is that the deprecating of the call ads, along with reducing or getting rid of the verified by Google badge or the guaranteed by Google badge, sorry, uh, that's part of their push to local service ads. And another reason for that is, if you think about I'm just going to throw a number out there. Let's say a $10,000 a month ad budget, an overall ad budget. That would probably be something like $8,500 or $7,500 to Google, $2,000 to somebody like you or I, and another $500 on a landing page and call rail and the other bits and pieces. So Google's getting 75%, and they're losing, in their minds, they're losing
25.
25%
They want
to
that 25.
they want to hoover up that 25%. And local service ads are that. You set them up, there's really nothing to do. I know there are a couple of people who've got some ideas on optimizing them, but really, as long as your client's answering the phone, responding to messages,
Getting reviews.
and getting
Yeah.
reviews, there's not really that much else you can do. It's certainly not something you can charge $2,000 plus another $500 worth of infrastructure for.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, LSAs, local service ads, they appear higher than PPC. So they're getting that large share on the top of the SERP. And yeah, that's definitely a move to get advertisers to jump on the LSA bandwagon if they haven't already.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah,
I think that's where we're going. I think a lot of what we're seeing is going to be related to that, including things like getting rid of match types, because with a pay per lead model, it actually doesn't matter what search triggered that display of a local service ad. As
exactly.
long as the person clicks on the ad and calls the business, Google's making money, and if they ever get their AI qualification system working well, it won't really matter how that person got there as long as they were the right kind of person.
Man, I just to quickly bring up a story. I had a client that's a personal injury lawyer. They had the messaging ads enabled, and someone messaged them saying, "How do I download the Uber app?" And then Google charged my client $600 for that lead, and there was no dispute. So
Yeah,
ever since Google removed the dispute a year ago, too bad. Anything that anyone submits as a message through the messenger, through the message on the LSA gets counted as lead. It doesn't matter what they say.
lovely.
And
Yeah,
there is no dispute.
that's, cer-
And
that's certainly
yeah,
rubbish. But yeah,
yeah,
that's what it is.
exactly.
It's what you're buying. You're buying a bag of apples, half of them are rotten.
Yeah, exactly. So then this client's like, well, then I want to do PPC then. But then with PPC, you have a little bit more control, but there's certain strategies that you can leverage in order to try to maximize the quality of the leads. So let's talk about some of the current strategies that are working right now in 2025 that can be leveraged in 2026. So anyone that's watching this video right now in 2025 or even in 2026 and beyond, just let's talk about what some these things that are currently working that we do have control over, that we can optimize, and that Google hasn't taken away from us.
Yeah.
So let's start with keywords. How are you viewing keywords these days as you're building out campaigns?
It's been my experience recently that using exact match keywords only doesn't work anymore. You just get no impressions. The ads don't serve, even though the data and experience says that there is enough search volume, even with very, very generous bid limits and very, very generous budgets. Exact match keywords on their own don't seem to work. So the the strategy that worked in the past of starting out a campaign with exact match keywords and a click based bidding, either manual or maximize clicks in order to gather data, seems like it's dead in the water. What has been working is to have an ad group with a bunch of exact match keywords in it and a broad match keyword that encompasses the same meaning. The and then pair that with a conversion-based bidding strategy, maximize conversions with or without a CPA set, depending on what you're thinking of. That seems the reason that seems to be working. I'm speculating over here because obviously I have no insider information. Somewhere in Google's docs, I found something I didn't know, which was that broad match keywords also use the other keywords in the ad group as a signal. And I don't know the weighting of the signal, but my experience from doing it this way seems that those exact match keywords appear to have a high weighting to say this is really what we want our ads to show for, things that relate to these searches, not just kind of the very broad search. So that seems to be working. Paired with bulletproof anti-spam, so you're not triggering junk, job seekers,
Mm-hmm.
conversion fraud, click fraud, bots, and that kind of thing as conversions. And then layered on top of that, some sort of downstream or down funnel conversion action. I typically like to use qualified leads, either qualified through an action like this person called in and booked an appointment, or qualified in some other way. They spoke to somebody in the office and they meet certain minimum criteria. And I think that feeding that data back and optimizing for an event beyond just the initial contact, that's going to become table stakes in 2026 and beyond. If you're not able to do that, I think that you're going to find it very difficult to run ads profitably, just because the lack of control before that has gone away.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to be feeding Google the right feedback signals in order
Yeah.
for it to know what a quality lead is. We'll talk about conversion tracking in a little bit, bulletproof conversion tracking. One thing that I wanted to add on top of what you'd mentioned, Pete, is bulletproof negative keywords. I mean, can you really be bulletproof with negative keywords? Google's always going to be finding something, right, to
Yeah.
match you to, but you can do your best. I think being proactive and doing the research on negative keywords even before you start is going to be
Always
super
before.
critical.
In my mind, it's now as important as the actual keyword research is to figure out what you don't want to show your ads for. The
Yeah.
days of being able to just buy clicks and gather data and then sort of wrong your way until you're right. I think those days are past. It's just too expensive to do and it takes too long. There's an
Yeah.
infinite supply of the wrong searches.
Yeah, I had a specific campaign this year that fell flat because I started with exact trying to use that strategy that you had
Yeah.
just mentioned, and it just nothing, absolutely nothing was coming out of it. And then I implemented some broad match keywords, and then slowly it started getting better. So along with a lot of negative keywords.
Okay.
Like probably like 1 to 2,000 negative keywords on this specific campaign, but that was just necessary in order to train Google to go after the right type of intent. Right now, I'm viewing keywords more as like themes. You can't expect Google to go after just like let's say dog trainer near me, dog trainer Orlando, dog trainer Los Angeles anymore. Those
No.
days are gone.
Yeah.
Those days are gone. Yeah.
And
Because
and it kind of makes sense. If you looked at somebody's search history and they were looking for, 3 months ago they searched for puppies for sale, and then 2 weeks ago they searched their searches were all sort of informational searches about my dog won't stop barking, my dog just bit my child's toes off, or something along those lines. It's kind of obvious that they're probably going to be in the market for
a
for
trainer.
a dog trainer fairly soon. So waiting until they use those exact words to show them an ad misses out on the opportunity to get them. So I can
Yeah.
see why they're doing that.
Yeah.
It's a lot less. It's not as comfortable as being able to say, "Well, we'll just take these people who've given us a clear indication that they're solution aware and they're ready to hire a dog trainer or whatever it is." But
Yeah.
that's what we have
And
to do.
what you mentioned, that's actually one of the signals that broad match uses. It's user history.
That's correct.
So yeah, broad match looks at user history. It looks at the landing page. It looks at the other keywords in the ad group, and then it also looks at the user's location to then determine whether it's something that should be served to the user. So that's the main benefit of broad match. Phrase match, you don't get those benefits. Exact match, you don't get those benefits. So pretty much there's a lot of benefits to using not phrase match, broad match these days, especially with using Google using those four signals to try to serve your ads to the right user at the right time.
Well, there is another signal, and this is where we have more control, and that's the ad copy. I don't know if you were gonna raise that earlier. I'll wait until. Oh, sorry, if you're gonna
Yes, I
raise that
have that
later,
on the
I'll wait
list. But
until then.
yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Let's go.
Well, part of the training that we can do to Google's algorithm is to write ads that discourage the wrong people from clicking. Just to stick on your dog trainer example, if it was a premium dog trainer, you might put pricing in there. 6-week dog training courses from $2,000. I have no idea how long it takes to train a dog or what a dog trainer costs, but just as an example, and that ad copy acts as a filter. Google's going to moan at you if you do that, because in order to do that, you would need to probably pin that kind of copy in your headline, and so you'll get an ad
And
string
Google
of
hates pinning.
yeah, they do, but there's a difference. If you allow Google to generate uh, these bland ads that might get clicked, they a click is good for Google because they make a bit of money out of it, but it's not necessarily good uh, for the dog trainer that we're talking about here, the mythical dog trainer. They don't want to click from somebody who's looking for cheap dog training or free dog training videos or
Hmm.
a quick 1 hour session on stopping your dog biting your kid's toes off or whatever it is. You need that business needs to filter the leads before they've paid for them to click. And I think part of that is that kind of controlling that message is going to be more and more important uh, as we get less and less control over who sees the ads. And I think eventually Google's going to start to learn from that, and possibly even faster than learning from the conversions. Because if you think about, if they show an ad and it's not clicked, they've instantly learned that this person and this ad are not a good match for each other in spite of other signals.
Hmm.
And so we'll see possibly panic about lower click-through rates, CTR,
Hmm.
but I think that will lead to a better outcome for our clients as they get their ads clicked by people who are more like their best clients or their best customers.
I don't think ad copy is going anywhere. I don't think Google is ever going to take that away,
Uh-huh.
because then everyone's ads are going to look the same. In fact, a lot of ads I'm seeing these days kind of are looking the same because Google is integrating its AI to write copy for users, and they're just using very generic messaging. And if you're one of those people that are using Google's AI to help you write headlines, I think it's a good way to at least get ideas,
Yeah,
but you
good
really
starting
need
point.
a good starting point, but don't just take it and apply it, because that's probably what other people, your competitors, are doing. So put some thought into it and think about what you could say to attract the right audience. And just what Pete was mentioning, qualifiers are super important. Dog training starting at $2,000, dog training for puppies 6 months and older. If your puppy is younger than that, we can't help.
Yeah.
Mentioning that we don't accept certain insurances. When I work with clients in the addiction industry, and they can't accept certain type of insurances, and I know it sounds very blatant or very harsh to say we don't accept this insurance, but that's what you have to say to prevent someone from clicking and costing you at
Yeah.
least like three hundred
And
dollars a click.
And it's a better experience for the person who's searching. They say, no, these people are not the kind of people that we can do, that can solve our problem. So I think the more qualifiers you can add to your ads, the better off, or the better the performance will be. But let's just think for a moment about Google's incentives over here. They've got this massive set of training data about what ads work. They have 25 years worth of uh, worth of click impression and click data, and they're able to synthesize ads that are likely to be clicked based on that. But a click is very good for Google. It's not necessarily good for the business.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Okay, what next?
Cool. Tying into ad copy, let's talk about assets. In terms of assets, my personal opinion is just use all of them that make sense for your business.
Uh-huh.
One particular asset, I think that a lot of local actually all advertisers need to be careful about is the call asset, especially because of the way that the match types are behaving these days. A lot of these match types are matching us up to our clients up to competitor names.
Yes.
So people might be calling saying, "Hey, are you Horizon Recovery Center?" when it's Los Angeles Recovery Center, and
Yeah.
you just wasted money because the tap to click was a click, and
Mhm.
you just wasted money on that. So be careful about the call assets because of the way that the competitor terms are showing up in the search term report. I hate it. I wish that there was just a way, like a toggle switch that you could press and
Yes,
say,
it
don't show me on competitors.
never show when somebody's looking for somebody else. I've had clients who are acupuncturists and have ended up with 2,000, maybe 3,000 names of other doctors that have just come out over the years from those search terms reports as we try to exclude them. I find it useful to track the click to call, the call asset number separately from numbers on the landing
Mm-hmm.
page, and
Absolutely.
not just track the number of calls coming into that,
The
but
quality too.
actually the lead quality. Is this person somebody we could sell to, rather than is this person looking for somebody else?
And I tend to find that the quality of the call assets, depending on the industry, tends to be not as good versus the landing page. Because at least when they're on the landing page, they've had a little bit of time
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah,
understand your business and see if there's a good fit based off of the contents on the landing page versus they're seeing an ad and they're just clicking on it thinking that it's potentially their doctor, so that they can cancel an appointment. But
yeah,
like,
and that happens, and that's
oh
well,
my
they think it's
goodness.
somebody else, and they want to cancel an appointment. Yeah, I have clients, especially clients with smaller budgets, where it's just not worth using the call asset, even though Google complains about it. Uh, we've tested and we found that those calls aren't worth the cost. That well, they aren't worth their cost. We'd rather spend that money getting someone onto the landing page. They know they're looking at a business, the right business,
I
before
think
calling.
because of the lack of control and with Google, you definitely need to pay attention to what's happening on those call assets because you're not able to have control over what you're matching to anymore
Yeah.
these days with the match types.
The other
Um,
asset that's really dodgy is the automated site link extensions.
oh gosh, yeah, anything automated by Google, definitely review and
Yeah, because you can end up having your expensive clicks directed to the craziest places, and it's so hard to turn those off. I do it, but every now and again, especially if I take on an account that's been managed by somebody else, I have to remember how to figure out, find it's about 3 clicks below, tiny little gray dots that you have to click those and then click the next and then click the next before you can find a way to disable them.
yeah, 100%. Any of those automated assets, definitely be aware of that and review. And Google doesn't even tell you when they put them in there. It's just surprise. One day you look in there and then
Yeah,
boom. So
it's
definitely
all.
review your account often and see if Google is just putting random site links or call outs, and make sure that it aligns with what you are looking to do. Now let's talk about landing pages. I don't want to spend too much time on it. We could have our separate video just talking about landing
Uh-huh.
pages. But let's talk about in terms of landing pages. This is where you have all control. So in terms of landing pages, what are the most important things that you would assets that you would include on a landing page, just from a high level?
I think a landing page has to do 4 jobs. It's got to convince people to believe 4 things. before they'll convert and contact the business. The first is that they're in the right place. And to do that, you need a headline that it's absolutely obvious. And you can't go for something kind of cute like every ending deserves a new beginning.
Oh
You've got to
gosh,
say
yeah, that would be something
you've got
on
to
a
say
recovery
divorce
center
lawyer
site.
Memphis on that thing, because people have to understand instantly that you do what they're looking for. You're reasonably competent. You don't have to prove that you're the best. You'll do that later once you've given them a price and they're making their own trade-offs about whether they can afford you or not. That you will that working with you will be reasonably comfortable. And this is a place where a lot of service businesses don't think about this, is that they neglect to describe the experience of working with them. And if it's something that you're not buying every day, how the experience, sorry, I'm kind of losing my thoughts over here, but how working with that provider is actually going to be quite important. If it's going to be if you're getting an emergency roof replacement, are they going to destroy your garden and your driveway while doing that? Or are they going to come in and clean up after themselves? Are they going to work fast? Are they going to work tidy? Are their workers insured? Is it a regular crew? Is it day labor? All of those kinds of things, they're part of convincing a prospect that working with you is going to be okay. And then the fourth thing that they need to believe is that you will actually respond if they contact you via a form or a message. Obviously, a call is a different thing. But I think if your landing page builds those four beliefs, that you have a much better chance of converting somebody.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about bulletproof negative keywords. We talked about a little bit about bulletproof conversion tracking for landing pages. You need to make it idiot proof.
And
So,
check it.
yeah, definitely check it, test it, make sure that the whole flow actually makes sense. So that's that's where you have a lot of control, like you have all control over your landing page and your landing page experience. Let's talk about some settings and constraints then with what you can control, because pretty much like within Google Ads you would be able to pick your keywords, negative keywords, match types, assets, ad copy, set your landing pages. Setting and constraint, we still have control over settings and constraints. Do you have any thoughts around the different settings and constraints to touch
Yeah.
on?
Um, One of the constraints that I generally put in place is a maximum cost per click ceiling or a guardrail. Even if I'm using, especially if I'm using a target CPA or a conversion-based bidding strategy, I still have scars on my heart and my soul from one day when Google spent $2,500 on 5 clicks, where
Mm.
the average was about 20 before that. And
Mm-hmm.
just on one day, they went crazy. And this maximized conversions bidding strategy burned through $2,500 on 5 clicks. And
Oh
so,
man.
although we don't control the actual cost per click of every click in a conversions based bidding strategy, I like to put a high enough cap on that just to make sure that that sort of craziness is not going to happen again. Because even though that happened to me and a whole bunch of other people, and I complained to Google, I don't think anybody got their money back on that day. There are a lot of
Yeah.
people walking around with that memory.
Oh man.
What else are we talking about? Things like ad scheduling. I think that's quite important because the cost of generating a lead is now too high in most industries for you to be able to generate a lead on a Friday night at 9 o'clock and call them back on a Monday at 8 and hope that they will
Such a
have not gone
waste.
somewhere else. So I
They
think you've
probably
got to
forgot
be
about you. Yeah.
that's it. You've got to be realistic about when the business can respond and and show your ads when you have the most chance of making some money out of those.
And when you can actually, yeah, respond.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the key. um, Okay, and then bulletproof conversion tracking.
Yes.
What thoughts do you have around bulletproof conversion tracking?
So I used the term table stakes earlier, which is kind of my thinking uh, for the next couple of years. Is that previously you might be able to get away with allowing conversions to leak. So, for example, if you have a phone number and a contact form on your website, those are kind of standard and easy things to track. But a lot of businesses don't track the phone call just because they don't want to spend an extra, I don't know how much call rail charges, but extra
Hmm.
$50 on call rail or whatever it is. Or they're in an area where that kind of tracking service isn't supported. Or they might have, for non American clients, they might have a WhatsApp button or a live chat button or an email address. I don't think that businesses can expect to allow those conversions to leak. So allow people to click on an ad and then email them, and then never
Hmm.
know that message came from an ad. I think if you can't track all of those conversions, that you're definitely going to be at a disadvantage.
Hmm.
And then the other half of that is tracking actual business value as conversions. So being able to either listen to the calls yourself or have somebody who responded to that call mark that lead as being a good fit for the business, a qualified lead for the business.
Hmm.
To stop, we addressed this earlier, to stop contact form spam and phone call spam. And I think we've got to do more than just stop it with something like capture, just to stop somebody filling in the form, because all that happens then is that although you might not get that form submission tracked as a conversion, you don't know that you've paid for a junk click. That bot just can't fill in the form. You've still paid for
Right.
that click. So, yeah, so those are the kind of the two things. We've got to track legitimate value and track all the value that the ads are bringing.
Yeah, because if you're just tracking everything that's coming through, then Google doesn't know what's good, what's a good or bad lead. And the
Yeah,
goal of running a Google Ads lead generation campaign is to get qualified leads. And it's unrealistic to expect that every lead that's going to come in is going to be qualified. In fact, there's going to be more unqualified than qualified. But how do we get more of the qualified leads? We got to feed that data back to Google so Google knows what's the right type of lead that we're looking for. So then it can go out and try to find more of those quality leads that we are looking for. Um,
yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you've just said.
Awesome. And then the final thing that I want to touch on is post lead follow up. So we've
Yes.
already recorded a video on post lead follow up in my PPC Hot Takes podcast. I'll link it below. But let's just talk about maybe for a few minutes post lead follow up, how critical that is to get that dialed in before you even launch your ads, and why it's so important.
Yeah. The faster you call, the more you sell. That's the answer. You're not going to get away with calling in a few hours. If you haven't called within a few minutes, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, somebody else has got that lead and has started the process of turning them into a customer. You've just lost the value or the cost of that lead without getting any value. I've been doing some interesting work with one of my clients, where we've actually connected his contact form system. Uh, uh, so it's the contact forms from their website, as well as they're in South Africa, so they're getting WhatsApp
Mhm.
messages and a whole bunch of lead sources all feed in. And as soon as that lead arrives, the system starts calling the salespeople, and
Mhm.
so it just cycles through the available salespeople. So it says there's a Google Ads lead ready. Press one to connect. Press the salesperson presses one, and then it dials the lead. So we're reducing contact times from somewhere between, I can't exaggerate and say they were great, but less than half an hour, we're now
Hmm.
reducing it to a minute or two, which is really making a difference.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Great.
and I think that that's going to be what you have to do. If you can't compete at that level, I don't think you should be spending money on advertising until you've solved that problem.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and don't wait to solve it before like while you're running the ads, solve it before.
Yeah,
Make sure that your operations is solid on the back end before you run ads, or else it's just you're just amplifying a broken system.
yeah, that's
And
a very good way of putting it.
yeah, it's I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with that just most clients don't have a good operation system on the back end. And then, you talk to them, you're like, tell me about your operation system in discovery call. And then they tell you, oh, yeah, we're great. We follow up, blah, blah, blah. And then, sure enough, once you launch the campaign, their receptionists went out for a smoke break. They did this, they did that. They're too busy. They're not answering the phones. And then you have to have this conversation with them and say, hey, you know this is your perception, but this is reality. Let me let you listen to all the phone calls that went to voicemail, and then
Uh-huh.
your voicemail doesn't even accept voicemails. It's completely full.
Yeah, yeah. So the businesses like that are not going to be profitable from
No,
Google Ads.
you're not going to be profitable with any type of advertising anywhere,
No,
anything you do.
yeah.
So get
Have you ever
that
thought
buttoned up.
about starting your own lead response center?
I thought about that. I definitely did. But I feel
I
like
think
I'd go crazy doing that.
everybody who does what we do has at least at one time thought, well, maybe I'll just get all the leads and set up a call center or something and respond to them for the clients and warm them up and then pass them on to the clients. But
Or it's like sometimes you have clients that actually answer the phone calls, but then they don't know how to sell, or they don't know
Mhm.
the right thing to say to actually convert them into a paid customer. And then you're listening to the phone call and you're just cringing because you're like, oh, you lost them because you said that, or oh, you should have said this.
Yeah, I think what we might find is that we end up evolving our jobs so that as we lose control on the Google Ads side, the sort of the before the click and before the lead side, well, I suppose before the click side, that's
Yeah,
where as we lose that control, we can then focus our efforts uh,
on the post.
downstream of that. Initially, by making sure that the landing pages are as good as they possibly can be, and then helping our clients to turn more leads into qualified leads, or to turn more leads into sales, or more qualified leads into sales. I think that's a fairer representation of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, yeah, the Google Ads manager's job is not just setting up a campaign and then, directing it to your website. It's definitely like consulting on the post click experience, and also giving you feedback about what's happening after the conversion is has taken place. Um, Beyond just having to answer the phone calls for you, I think that that's a big ask, especially to create a call center to be answering for the leads. But I think that that's probably the farthest that the furthest that we can take it without actually being involved in the day to day of each client that we're working
Uh-huh.
on. Yeah.
Have you ever been tempted to take over one of your clients' businesses?
Oh, absolutely. Have you?
Many times. Thinking, well, we're generating all these leads. I know you would be happy sitting in your office, never having to talk to customers, but I've managed to avoid that so far.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's wrap up this conversation with some common myths that we've been hearing this year in 2025. So let's talk about a few ones that we talked about in the past. So you need long keyword lists to be successful.
Um, a long keyword list, I'm not convinced about that. Uh, the days of being able to build up a massive keyword list filled with long tail keywords, keywords that have, or searches that are made up of many words. Best dog training in Kansas City under $2,000, that kind of keyword. Those days are gone. Google has figured out how to monetize even those long tail
Hmm.
searches, and they sell them at a price that makes sense for Google.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't think that's much use anymore. I think the broad match covers all of those kinds of that kind of intent.
Yeah.
What
Broad
else?
match is covering long keyword lists and long tail keywords. How
Mhm.
about you can still win with manual bidding?
I can't comment on that because I haven't done manual bidding for at least a decade. Uh,
A
I got so
decade.
yeah, I got so
Wow.
frustrated by it that I actually built my own automated bidding strategy before Google did. And it, yeah, I'm a geek. What can I say? And so every day it would read data in from the account, and based on rules I
You
had
would
set for
adjust the
that,
bids
it would then
based off of
adjust the
that.
bid. So I haven't gone in and manually tweaked a bid since probably 2010.
Yeah, I think that there's a time and place for manual bidding, especially for like smaller accounts, for like some like branded campaigns where you might want to have more control over it. I think you can still win, but I think if you're trying to win like with like larger ad spend, definitely go the route of automated because Google has all the signals that's necessary in order to generate the conversions for you.
Yeah, one of the things that always surprised me about manual bidding is people were talking about how frequently they were adjusting their bidding to take into account some sort of signals. But the data that they have in the account is 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours late. If they're bidding manually based on conversion data, it could well be a couple of
Real
days
time. Yeah.
uh, lag between the click and the conversion event. Something if you were trying to do manual bidding to optimize for a downstream conversion, you might be basing your bid adjustments on 3 or 4 day old data. I'm
Yeah,
not
it's such
convinced,
a.
but I know people still are, and fair play to them.
How about let's just chase cheap clicks?
I'm always happy when somebody else is in the same market my clients are chasing cheap clicks. Cheap clicks are cheap for a reason. Nobody else wants
Hmm.
them.
Yeah, and when I spot cheap clicks in an account, then I immediately know something's wrong.
Yeah, that's it. It
Yeah.
used to be a kind of a flex that you had got your cost per click down. Now it's a warning sign.
Oh, exactly. Especially when you log in and you're like, wait, we had some clicks for 17 cents today. That's
Yeah,
completely wrong because it should really cost $17.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then quality score still matters. Does quality score still matter in 2025? Let's talk about that.
I, I don't think quality scores mattered for at least 5 years. It's not something I pay much attention to. The quality score, now, everything I might say is based on the last time I thought about this, so it could be wrong. But my understanding is that the quality score is calculated retrospectively based on exact match impressions. And in a world of no more exact match being exact match, how that quality score is calculated seems crazy. But even if there was still a way uh, of understanding how it works, the feedback is so slow from quality, from making a change in your account to seeing a change in the quality score, that it's useless as a driver of ads. So I just
Mhm.
ignore it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a decent diagnostic to,
Uh-huh.
especially when it comes to like landing page experience. But then again, it's not something that I'm looking at every single day. It's just something that, if you're noticing something off, it's good to just quickly check to see what could be, one of the potential reasons that could be
Mhm.
driving things down.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I have occasionally looked at it as a diagnostic tool, but it's not something that's permanently enabled in any view
No.
or report that I
N-
have.
no. I can't tell you the last time I looked at quality score. I'm going to be
Yeah,
honest on that one.
but some people are
Okay.
very excited about it. They definitely want to, working on improving their quality score, such as you can do it. I say
Yeah.
improve the results of your ads, and if your the business results of your ads, and if your quality score happens to go up, well done. If it doesn't really matter.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Pete. This was such an insightful conversation in regards to the best strategies that my viewers here or our viewers can be using on their Google Ads lead generation campaigns in 2026. It was a great recap of what we saw this year. And if you are watching this video and you thought this video was helpful, you love this conversation, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. I post videos about Google Ads every week. And I want to thank you so much, Pete, for joining. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thanks, Michelle. As always, it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.